let's get started. Hi, everyone. Please say welcome to Kamal Ravikant. Hi,
Thank you.
Kamal. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. It's a beautiful foggy morning in San Francisco.
Perfect choice of a city. So I'm going to tell everyone who's listening. There are about 3,000 people on this program right now. How we met. Kamal spoke at Awesomeness Fest, and his speech was a runaway success. He spoke on the first day. People loved what he spoke about. And we took his speech. So this was just in November, right? We took his speech. It was a 20-minute speech. We put it up on YouTube. And Kamal just checked, and 26,000 people have now watched it on YouTube. Amazing comments, and that view count is going on higher and higher and higher. People are sharing this with their friends and their family, and they're saying, "You got to watch this. This guy hits it right in the head." Kamal, he's going to be sharing his story with you, but I want to tell you what his ideas did for me. So Kamal's topic at Awesomeness Fest was on loving yourself, on genuinely appreciating yourself for who you are. It's amazing how many of us forget this. And Kamal's book, it's a beautiful book that is something that you can read in about an hour to 2 hours. It took me about maybe 90 minutes because I kept pausing every now and then because it was that profound. But it's a short book, but it carries such a powerful message. The book is called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depended on It. It's a beautiful book. And it was recently on one popular website voted as one of the top 25 must read personal growth books for people in their 20s. That's how profound this book is. And at our office here in Mind Valley, people have been circulating the book. In fact, right now you cannot get a copy because someone has borrowed every copy out there. But Kamal, before I let you start,
Uh-huh.
right, I want to share with my group here what your book did for me. So it's amazing how so many of us who are successful, think we're confident, really have self love issues. And I want to share something really personal, but about a month ago, I was just feeling lousy. I felt that my life had just become me going to the office, getting work done, checking my calendar, checking my schedule, and I felt almost like a lack of connection with many of the people I worked with. I felt, and it was crazy because I'm the CEO of a big company with over 100 people, but I felt unnoticed. I felt unvalidated. I felt unappreciated. I would feel really nice if someone would just compliment me on the shirt I was wearing or tell me, hey, we really love that, the way you ran that meeting, or hey, that's an awesome idea. And it's crazy to think, right, that a CEO like me, I'm supposed to be the guy at the top of that pyramid, was feeling insecure that no one complimented me or said a kind word to me on a particular day. And I realized that I really had some major self-love issues. Now, as it happened, I stumbled upon Kamal's book. It was on the desk of someone in my office, and I asked her, "Are you reading this?" And she goes, "Yeah, I was going to take it back over the weekend." And I go, "Hey, look, it's a short book. Can I just borrow it for tonight?" Now, I had this gut feeling that I had to read that book. So I went home, stayed up till 1 a.m. reading the book, and it shifted me in a profound way. I did the exercises in that book, exercises that Kamal is going to share with you. It brought tears to my eyes, and it made me realize weaknesses I had that I kind of needed to get rid of. And one of the big things was that I needed to truly appreciate and love myself enough so I did not have to seek outside validation. Now, I read the book, I did the exercises, and what was really profound, Kamal, is how rapidly it impacted me. It was about 4 days later, so I read the book on a Thursday. Monday, I was back in the office, and things had already shifted. I didn't feel down or unnoticed when my work was just meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, and I didn't really get a chance to connect to anyone. I had enough self love, enough support for myself that I almost felt like I could survive on my own. And it was okay that I didn't have anyone come and compliment me or spend time with me that day. I felt that I could pull it out of myself. Now, something else really funny happened as I started doing your exercise, especially the mirror exercise, which all of you listening are going to learn. I started experiencing a feeling of having my soul next to me. It was this weird feeling where I felt like there were two of me. There was the conscious vision, then there was a soul vision next to me. And whenever I would feel a slight doubt or some odd insecurity would come back, that soul aspect of me would just kick in and go, hey, dude, chill out. I'm here. And it kind of shifted how I operated. Now it's now been 1 month. I can say that the effects have carried me through. And what was really funny is that within about a week of reading your book, people actually came up to me. Two people came up to me and said, "Hey, Vishen, something's different about you." And I go, "Yeah, I'm kind of really connected to my soul right now." And then I recommended the book to them. So, Kamal, I'd love for you to share your story and to share these exercises that had such a profound impact on me.
Sure. Wow. First of all, I'm really touched, man. Thank you. Thank you. It's interesting. I was never. I'm in such a different place in my life. Just in the last couple of years, ever since I wrote the book, but actually, what I came up with that the book is about. I was never like the love yourself guy. I didn't even believe in the concept of love. I always said, "Oh, it's a hormonal thing. It's just like you can fake yourself." And I was always like very driven. All of us in the valley, but just it's all ego, right? It's all like you could sell for a company for a lot of money, but someone next to you sell it for a billion, and you feel like nothing, right? It's just you're always comparing yourself to your peers, and your peers are insanely smart and very very successful. And then when my last company that I was building it fell apart, dirty little secret being 90 something percent of businesses do fall apart. And but my ego was so attached to it that I fell apart with it. And I got really, really sick. I've been working myself insanely, as you know how it goes when you're building something, for like almost 4 years. And like my company fell apart, all my money was in it. That fell, I lost everything. My relationships fell apart. I got really sick. And the doctors were like throwing some pretty scary diagnoses at me, and they were testing me to figure out what was going on. In the meantime, I'm in this bedroom that I'm talking from, like shades pulled over there, just miserable out of my mind. It was like, and I remember one night I was crying. A friend of mine also just recently died, someone I really loved, just suddenly, and I was just crying, and I went to bed. I went to bed just miserable and crying, and uh, next morning I woke up and I was like, I can't do this. I can't live like this. I'm done. Like, I'm either gonna get out of this or die trying. And I staggered over to my desk here, this actual desk, and I don't have a journal lying here. Otherwise, I pull it up and show you. I have a journal where I used to keep notes to myself sometimes, and I just like grabbed a pen and just wrote down like this fierce vow. But the vow was not that I'm going to get out of this. Vow came from nowhere. It was like, I'm going to love myself. And it was like, I'm going to love myself, not just love myself, I'm going to love myself every action, every thought, everything I do when I'm conscious to the like every extent that I can. The vow was more poetic than what I'm saying now. I'm going to love myself. And I like literally just like, I think there's marks on this desk from how hard I wrote it. And I sat back and I was like, what was that? Like, and then the thing is, I'm a big believer in commitment. I'm a big believer, like once anything great in life is done with commitment. And so I made a vow to myself, which is the ultimate commitment. You cannot break a vow to yourself. And so here I was, I had nothing to do, so I set out to like figure out how to fulfill this vow to myself. And I just tried things, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to learn to love myself. I just tried things. The things that I noticed shifted things inside me. I went deeper in. Things that didn't work, I just threw them out. I was trying everything, just locked in my bedroom, just trying things. And out of that, a couple of things I noticed were just shifting my mental energy, just how I was feeling. So I started going deeper, and so it ended up being like 3 or 4 very key things. And then I just did those nonstop, and like I started getting better. My body started getting better. And we all know the stories of Norman Cousins and so forth, where like, your mind actually does affect your physical body. But what happened was my life got better. Like things that were outside, me locked in my bedroom, and things all of a sudden started coming at me. I had done nothing except sit in my bedroom, just figure out how to love myself, just working on loving myself. And that was like, oh shit, there's something here. Like there's something here that I can't quantify, but I like it and I'm gonna go with it. And so within a month, my life had completely changed. Now it's puppy dogs and rainbows a lot of times, but life still happens, right? But it's like who you become, that you actually rise through situations. Uh, and so I wrote this little book, and I was like terrified to put it out. And I've said this before, but I don't think most people realize just how scared I was to put it out. Silicon Valley, you don't put out a book about loving yourself. You just don't talk about that. Like I was terrified. I really thought I was going to be ridden out of here on a donkey, like backwards on a donkey. Like really, like when that book came out, I was so scared. But I put it out because I was sharing what was working from their friends, and it was changing their lives, right? And they were pushing me. And which, by the way, is the beauty of sharing what works for you. Like people come around and they actually force you to step up in a certain way. So they pushed me to write this book. So I worked really, really hard on this book. It's a short book, but I cut out most of it, right, until I got to the very essence of what I was trying to get across, so that anyone, like if I was really sick, I could pick this up and read it and apply it. There was no theory, no
Hmm.
nothing. It's just my experience. This is what I did. This is how it works, and maybe a little bit why I think so, why, and
And
that's it.
that's what I love about how you wrote your book, because I mean you're a Silicon Valley guy. You're kind of a rock star entrepreneur in the valley, and you tested out all these techniques, right? And
Yeah,
and in the book you just shared the four techniques that work best for you. That's what you're
yeah,
sharing today.
yeah.
Well, as many as
So
we can cover.
yeah, the main one actually was, first of all, I didn't know how to go about setting how to love myself. It's just something most of us, I think, once we're not no longer kids, we don't know anymore. So I just started thinking to myself, just telling myself, I love myself, I love myself.
Kamal, just before you go to the technique, let me
Yeah.
ask you this. Why is it, do you think, that so many incredibly successful men, okay, I'm not talking about women here,
Hmm.
I'm talking about men, because men are supposed to be um, more insulated from emotion. Why is it that so many men, the men you work with in Silicon Valley who resonated with this book, you,
Yeah.
me, why is it that so many of us have this issue of not fully being grateful or not fully loving ourselves?
I think one of the reasons we end up doing what we do and having the success we do initially, at least, is because it comes from insecurity. We're trying to prove ourselves, like at least it was for me. I was trying to prove myself,
Hmm.
to whatever that is. Um, I mean, yeah, I think it comes from an inner need, like that drives us to show to the world, our parents, our family, whatever, that hey, I am something. I made this much money. I sold this for that, or whatever, right? I think it comes from that. But the irony is, as men, we actually far softer than we actually let on. Like inside, we're gushy beings, and but the irony being, when we get in touch with that. Um, we can come from a masculine place, but actually there's less struggle. That's what I've noticed in my life. Like ever since I've done this, things just work. And like I don't have to work, I don't have to struggle at it. That was one of the biggest things I learned. It's like before I was always struggling and pushing and putting that boulder up the hill, putting that boulder up the hill. I don't anymore. It just kind of walk alongside it. It just goes up. Um,
Right. That's very, 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 very interesting. I was just interviewing a man called Panache Desai, right? And Panache has an amazing book out. I believe it's called Discovering Your Soul Signature. Okay, and
mhm.
Panache has been, he was just on Oprah. He's collaborated with many of the best minds in that industry. And Panache said something which I believe you're also kind of saying. He says, once you truly get in tune with your soul, right? He says a life works synchronistically. You don't have to struggle. It's as if the universe has your back and the right things happen at the right time. So you just have to stroll along and the right things happen to you.
Yeah. I think one of the things, at least for me, was given how analytical my background is. I actually tested everything on me. I wasn't willing to just go along with what I didn't read anything. I just locked myself and tried stuff, right? Um, so the first practice, right? The first practice was like the simplest thing I could come up with, because it's like I was like, okay, I'm going to start off as an idiot, as a blank slate. How am I going to love myself? I don't know. Like I'm just going to tell myself I love myself. I started walking around, or when I was brushing my teeth in the shower, whatever. Just started telling myself I love myself. I love myself, because I've studied enough neuroscience to know, like the way your neuroplasticity,
Hmm.
our mind just goes down certain pathways. And I don't know why, but more often than not, the negative pathways, the pathways that actually don't serve us. So I was like, let me just pick the very simplest thing and start putting that pathway down, and then making myself feel it, making myself breathe it in. I just kept on doing it. I noticed a shift to the point after like a couple of weeks, my mind was running that pattern on its own. And I was like, wow, like you wake up and you're thinking, oh, I love myself. Like, how often does that happen? Right. So I was like, that's a great way to be. So that was just the very first simplest thing. But the key there is actually feeling, what I learned later was feeling emotion when I'm doing it. Emotion, we can just make ourselves feel anything. And I do that a lot actually when I drink my coffee. It's like my little hack, when I'm drinking
I do
coffee
that when I'm drinking red wine.
with wine.
I do
Yeah.
so many of these interviews with red wine.
When I drink it, I'm always like just running that loop, just feeling that I love myself, actually feeling it in. And that's all it is. It's we almost like creating the sense of being around us that's purely us. It has nothing to do with anybody else. So life outside, life outside is just details, right? Those are going to shift, but this thing stays solid, which is the most important thing. And the irony is, when this thing is solid, life is pretty nice. So that was the first practice. It was the very simple one. I talk about the book a little bit more detail, but this is what it comes down to: just making myself have that mental loop of loving myself, and it's very important. I learned, but I did research later why I was lucky. I didn't choose like I like myself or enjoy myself or appreciate myself, because love is such a fundamental human basic quality. I really think love is the God particle. It's that missing thing in physics that there's something special about it. We're just wired for it. And I lucked out in choosing that one. So that's the first practice, just the emotional mental loop. The second one was meditation.
So Kamal,
Mhm.
just to make sure we understand, so it's just a practice of repeating a mantra. I love myself with
Yeah,
emotion.
yeah. It's funny. Like someone told me later when I was talking about the practice, like, "Oh, you have a mantra." I didn't even realize that. Oh, yeah, my ancestors came up with this stuff. Mantra. Yeah, of course. It's really that's all it is. But it's if when I'm home loudly, sometimes to myself, but most of the time it's just in my head, just
And
silently in my head.
and do you remember that song that people created at Awesomeness Fest?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was great.
Will you so for those of you who obviously many of you were not at Awesomeness Fest, but it's a personal
You
growth
should be.
festival.
You should go.
It's a personal growth festival for entrepreneurs. Tickets are a little bit hard to come by because we never have enough capacity, but we share all the videos online, so you can watch Kamal's video online from there. But what happened at the event was people were so captivated by this I love myself movement that someone came up with a little tune. And this started an online movement where dozens of people all around the world started recording videos of themselves singing this song, I Love Myself, and putting it up on YouTube. I'm going to be sharing with you a little clip at the end of this interview so you can register that song in your head. And like Kamal said, you can, when you're telling this to yourself, you can say it with emotion.
No, that's awesome. That's a great idea. And so the second practice, and this one was very important because someone gave me this great advice once, which he said, life is from the inside out. And fundamentally, we have to be quiet and make ourselves accept, something bigger than ourselves, however we define that. And that's where the meditation came from. But I'm a Silicon Valley guy. I'm very impatient and very late. I'm also impatient and also very lazy at the same time. So I always try to find hacks. You know, I've always had problems meditating because you should meditate for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I can't do it. So I was reading a lot about neuroscience and I was reading about NLP and anchoring before. And so what I did was I just took one song that I happened to really have a lot of positive associations. It was a beautiful, simple flute and piano song. And I would put my headphones in and I would just meditate. And when I would meditate, I would feel like because I was sick at the time, I would imagine this white light coming in through my head and just going all through my body. And then I would just feel I love myself with my in breath, and then out breath was just whatever came out. And my mind would wander and so forth, and then just when I remember it, then come back to it. But the thing with the music was, I noticed after a week or two, whenever I put the headphones on, I would just go in that meditative state. So like that's where the anchoring, and that was my hack, right? For like, basically meditating for lazy people or meditating for busy people. So I found that rather than meditating for 20 minutes to get into meditative state, because I was doing the same piece of music that I really just felt really good about, I would go into it right away. And then when the song ended, my meditation was over. So I did that every day, and that was really important. I noticed meditation isn't something that you do in a moment. You're like, yes, it shifted everything. But you notice that shift, that subtle, subtle, subtle door just opening, 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 just over days and over weeks. And you're like, this is the most important thing I can do for myself in my day is meditation.
Kamal,
Um,
what was that song that you listened to?
I've changed it over time, actually. The one at that time was some instrumental called "Oneness Blessing."
I see.
I can find it send it to
But
you. But
it's
I'm actually like,
but we can choose any type of music, right? And we can change the music almost every day. Or are you locking in a particular music?
I'm locking in. I wouldn't change the key so that when the music comes on, your mind just goes,
Right.
oh, it's Pavlovian, right? Mind
Right.
just goes into that state.
Pavlovian.
The most important thing, at least for me, was I felt really good about that music. I had only positive associations. Even negative associations, the subconscious is strong,
Right.
And I would say don't listen to anything with voices, no singing,
I
because
see.
you don't want to put someone else's words in you. Let your own thing come. But otherwise, music doesn't matter. Then I change it to, I think, Beethoven and Bach and Mozart, whatever.
So it
Just,
could be something that you find on Ombana, could be a binaural
yeah,
beat.
you guys are perfect music. I would recommend like Ozzy or whatever, like
Right.
that.
Now, there was in your book you mentioned that as you were listening to these songs, you
Uh-huh.
would, and I'm quoting you from your book. You said you
Please
would
do.
repeat to yourself, "I love myself," and then exhale and listen to whatever judgment came. Could you explain that part?
Actually, it wasn't even listening. I would just let it out.
Let it out. Okay.
Judgment is, I don't know why, is a very natural thing for us. At least, until like we learn to actually just nourish ourselves from the inside out. And so stuff would come or negative thoughts would come or whatever, and I would just breathe them out. And then back to loving myself. It's no attachment to them.
So you
I
would
think.
say, so this is how I did it. I want to make sure I'm doing it right.
Mhm.
So you'd have the music playing, you'd sit in your meditative posture, your eyes, of course, would be closed. You'd just repeat, "I love myself," feeling the emotion you said is important,
Mhm.
and then you would exhale. Then you would just pay attention to whatever thought came to your mind, and that's it.
Um, yeah, that's it. It's that simple. In fact, sometimes I don't even pay attention to the thought. The only thought I really pay attention is to loving myself. The
I
rest,
see.
whatever's coming out, does not matter. And sometimes I find it's coming out that I love myself. Great. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's really simple, but like I really tested the heck out of it on myself.
This was
And
the
I,
exercise that many of us in the office love doing.
yeah, well, I'm so happy to hear that. I get so many emails every day from people who read the books, and I tell them this one, do not skimp it. For some reason, people have like who are not used to meditation, very Western. This is the one they don't do, and I tell them this is the most important one to do because it gets you silent and focused in a way. Like the third one, which actually even more because makes you face yourself, which is the one we've been talking about, the mirror one.
Before,
And
wait, just before we
Mhm.
go to the mirror one, because
Yeah.
I love systems. I love stuff that we can directly put in our life, right? And I love the systems you teach because you've been experimenting. You've tried so many different things, and these were the things that work best. I just want to share a tip that several of us at the Mind Valley office did with your first idea,
Yeah, I'd
the
love to hear
"I
it.
love myself" mantra. So what they did was they took their iPhone, or you can use an Android device, and there are many apps that send you a daily reminder. So you can use there's a goal setting app called Lift. There you can even just use your timer, and you basically just set your phone to remind you 4 or 5 times a day to have a little pop up come on the phone that says, "Remember to love yourself," or "Have you loved yourself today?" Just a simple message like that. And whenever you see that, you just smile and you repeat that mantra. So a couple of us in the office tried that on our phones, and apparently it worked really well.
No, that's great. I actually, like in my second book, I talk about how I was like playing more with this. Like a year ago, I went to stay in a monastery in Big Sur for a week, and there, like it was winter and it was raining a lot. It was over New Year's time, and I'd be standing there with with my coffee in the mornings and watching the rain. It was beautiful, and I just started like anchoring myself to basically every time I drank coffee, I would make myself feel I love myself. Now I'm addicted to coffee, but in a way, I'm addicted to loving myself. It's whatever works for anyone, right? Just what it's the timers or something you do regularly every day. Like I drink coffee in the morning every morning, so I just stand and look out my windows at beautiful views of San Francisco, and I just every time I sip, I'm feeling myself. I love myself. It becomes a natural thing. Like basically, you create an instinctual habit, right, and get it out of your mind. I think one of the biggest things. I think one of the reasons why, honestly, I think why my book does so well is because we've all been told to love ourselves, right? We all know that fundamentally we need to do it, but no, and I've looked lately, and people send me books, and they're big, thick books about all sorts of platitudes about it, but not an actual practice. And what I realized was the most important thing is anything in life requires consistent commitment, consistent day in, day out commitment and action, right? And that's all I did. I took how I operate in the other world and apply it to this. Like every day, I'm going to take action to love myself until it becomes a habit, an instinctual habit. Then it comes from inside. That's all it is. So it's like for me, loving myself, doing my practice is as same as brushing my teeth. I just do it and I feel it, right? I think that
Right.
was one of the keys, right?
Right. You've basically made it a daily practice, just like brushing your teeth.
Yeah. Oh, or go to the gym. If you go to the gym once a month, you're not going to get in shape. If you do this once a month, it's not going to work for you. Do it every day, or
And
that's
and speaking of brushing your teeth, it's the technique that you were just about to talk about, the technique with the mirror. that I started doing
Yeah.
just as I'm brushing my teeth. And that was one of my favorite techniques, and though it is kind of bizarre, I'd love for you to share that.
Yeah, this one, man, I was miserable. I think I may have come up with without brushing my teeth too. This is like when I was really sick, and they gave me some antibiotics, and what it did was I've never told this to anyone before. It caused a severe skin reaction on my face. So here am I locked in, right, in my bedroom, sick, and I wake up one morning and I have these jarred marks on my face, right? And so I just had an allergic reaction to antibiotics, right? And so now here, it's like just we thought it couldn't get any better or worse. Well, now stuff affecting your ego, goes in. And so now I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, like what's next? And I'm like, no, I can't do this. Like you cannot get in that, cannot feel that. I made a vow to myself to love myself. So I started looking. What I did was, and this evolved to the point where it's very clear in the book. But basically, I was looking at myself in the mirror, feeling awful, and I was like, no, I can't feel this. So I just started looking at myself in the eye, to the real me. Like the windows to the soul. I cannot escape from myself if I look myself in the eyes. And I think I did um, the right eye, just this one. No, the left eye, and the mirror is the other one, just because it's the left brain. Go for the more creative part. And I just started telling myself, I love myself. I love myself. Looking in my eye, I could not escape. So I was away from how I was feeling about myself, looking at the marks on my face and feeling awful, to just my eye, the fundamental, this creature, this soul, as you use, that I am. And that took that away. And I noticed after a while, something inside me started to shift. Where like I wasn't even looking at like, the marks went away eventually, but I wasn't even looking at them anymore. I was just looking at myself in the eyes, to the real me. Where the real confidence comes from. Not from like just looking at our appearances, but like there's something about the eyes that's and so I just do this for short periods, and you know looking in the mirror maybe before bed or maybe in the morning or whatever. And honestly, I'll be very honest with you, I'm lazy, and sometimes I skip these things, and my life shows. Just
So
but this is the practice I got to do to have my life sing. I'm more than happy to.
so just to recap, you're looking
Uh-huh.
at a mirror, you pick one eye, you stare at that one eye, and
And
you repeat that same
yeah.
phrase, I love myself, I love myself.
And in the beginning, it was like, here's the keys. You don't have to believe it. I did not believe it. At that time, I think I was hating myself, in all honesty. I was really miserable, fed up with I was just fed up with everything, with myself, with life, you name it, right? But it's like making myself do it, making myself do it. It's like, if you're out of shape and go to the gym, it's painful. Stuff comes up. I get emails all the time. People are like, well, it's working great, but all these things are coming. I'm like, yeah, I'm loosening the gunk. It's gonna float up, and that's part of the process, and it'll float away. The mirror thing, I only do for 5 minutes. I set a timer on my iPhone. I don't do it longer than that. It's just very focused, and there'll be times if I'm just looking myself in the eye, I might just be quiet like 3 out of those 4 minutes. But the key is like looking in who you are. I realized something after a while, the way you start looking yourself in the eye, it's like we've all been in love, right? And like how we look at someone when we love them, like you have a family, you have a wife, you have children,
Hmm.
how you look at them. This is the way you're looking at yourself, the same way. Like the way the gift you give someone when you love them, you're giving yourself that same gift, that same look. There's something really special about that.
You know what's beautiful about that? I remember reading in a book, I think it was one of the Conversations with God books by Neil Donald Walsh, and he says, you know why it's so hard to look a person in the eye? I mean, not glance at them in the eye, but genuinely look at them in the eye for a minute. It's because the eyes are the doorways to the soul. And when you're staring at someone in the eye, you cannot help recognize that they are not just a human being, they are a soul. And it makes you remember that you're a soul. And it makes you realize that both of you are in some ways connected. So the author said, whom I think was Neil Donald Walsh, said that looking at someone in the eye makes you uncomfortable because it brings out love. But we have been trained to be uncomfortable about love. And I'm not just talking
Yeah.
about with a spouse or a kid, but just uncomfortable about love in general. And that's why when we look at someone in the eye, after a few seconds, we need to glance away. But it's not normal, and sometimes even considered impolite to just stare at someone in the eye. So when you're doing that exercise, staring at your own eye in a mirror, you're
Yeah.
kind of putting yourself in that state. You're forcing yourself to see yourself as a soul and to feel that love for yourself.
Yeah, you're connecting with yourself in a deep, like primal, visceral, and spiritual, if I can use the word spiritual way. You can't escape from yourself when you're looking at yourself in the eye for 5 minutes. You
Right.
just can't, like otherwise the mind is great at escaping. Um, and those were like the three fundamental things that I did every day. There's more that I did, but like it came down to basically those three as a practice, like going to the gym every day or like having a workout. Um, and then we were talking about this earlier, the thing about darkness and light. Um, One of the best things someone told me that changed my life was that he said, darkness is the absence of light. It is nothing else. So he said so when I took that metaphor and ran with it, and darkness being any negative thought, anything that doesn't serve me, right? So when you notice it, okay, that's darkness. Now, normally what we try to do is we try to push it away, we try to force it away, we try to drown it, whatever, but it just stays in and it comes out other ways. Versus realize this is darkness. My only job is not to make the darkness go away, but to let the light in. I don't force anything. It's like you're in a room like and I think I came up with that because I have this giant
Right.
bedroom window right here. You can see the light coming in. And it's like, if this gets dirty, right, then the room's gonna be dark. My only job is to pull out a rag and start cleaning the window. The light does its own work. I don't do any work for the light. I don't do anything about the darkness. I just clean the window. And the window's the mind, the window's the heart, right? And so what this practice for me was, I was just cleaning my window. That's it.
That's
It's
a
really that simple.
that's a beautiful metaphor, Kamal.
Yeah, it was
Was
actually a gift given to me by someone. It's amazing that people meet in our lives and the things to say to us one thing. And I think the key is, we read all these books, we listen to all these things, but it's like sometimes something grabs you. Like I'm a big believer in just make it your own, just go with it all in, right? And that's all it takes. That's where all transformation comes from, right? The commitment and just going all in. And that's what great things and are built, And like I'll give you a very concrete example. So this book, right? I was terrified to put it out. I hid after I put it out. I self-published on Amazon. Then I just, all right, done, to my friends, and now please leave me alone. And other people started writing about it, and it kind of like it just took off. And within 5 weeks, I remember waking up one morning, checking my Amazon stats, and it was the number one self-help book on Amazon.
wow.
5 weeks, right? It was like books, self-help, come on. I was like, what the like? That's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about when I tell people that it's not struggle. When you're doing, I put it out because fundamentally, I was really, really scared. I even talk about in the book about how scared I was,
Right.
but I did it because I asked myself, if I love myself, would I do this? I not even like, do you love yourself? If I loved myself, and the answer was yes, I would share this. This is my fundamental truth. This is something that saved me, and I know it can save others. So I did. And I mean, the book is like Amazon, and I had a meeting with Amazon a couple of weeks ago at Seattle. Like I'm one of their self-published success, with that book.
Wow.
Like I think a year and a half, like the numbers now, it's sold over 70,000 copies.
Wow.
It's insane. I mean, that's what happens. If someone wants a concrete example of what happens when you do this, and I did nothing. All I did was focus and write it with love. That's it.
That's beautiful. And the world is so grateful. 70,000 people who bought that book are so grateful for it. And 26,000 people who have watched your video from Awesomeness Fest are tremendously grateful for that.
Oh, I'm grateful, man. It's changed my life. It's totally changed my life. The practice changed my life, but then putting out the book and sharing my truth, it's completely changed my life. It's completely changed how I do business, whatever I do. It's transformed everything. And, I still fall sometimes. I'm human. Life still happens, right? But it's like one of the things is how fast you bounce back. You never hit a bottom anymore. And also just the lessons you learn. You learn lessons quicker. I think I used to take a long time to learn lessons and maybe repeat the same mistakes again and again. I don't think I do that anymore. This really helps me with that.
And you know what I like about what you teach in the book? It's how easy it is to apply. So the repeating of the mantra, I love myself, that doesn't even take people any time. You can basically just set an iPhone timer to remind you of that thought. And then looking at yourself in the mirror, I do that when I'm brushing my teeth right now, and it has an amazing impact on you. You start seeing yourself as being beyond human in a beautiful way, in a soulful way. And finally, the meditation. Well, I incorporated that with my regular meditation. And I'm going to share people how I did that in a moment. But just that little that little mantra, I love myself, as you're meditating, beautiful, profound impact. And any of you, the people who are listening, almost all of you probably meditate at this point. It's super easy to add in. So I want to share how I've incorporated this into my meditation, because a lot of the people listening here do the 6-phase meditation, which is part of the envisioning method, which is the meditation style that I developed. And it's the meditation style that everyone at Awesomeness Fest learns to do. So in the 6-phase meditation, we teach you the concept of gratitude. That comes in phase 2, right? So we teach a simple technique where people think about 5 things in their personal life they're grateful for. So it could be a cup of coffee, could be great weather, could be a wonderful song playing on the radio, could be a hug you got from someone you love. Then they think about 5 things in the last 24 hours that they're grateful for in their career. So it could be the fact that you got through 50 emails in record time, or the fact that you made X amount of sales that day, or the fact that cash flow came in. So 5 things personal, 5 things in your career. Now I added something else to that, and that was inspired by your book. And that was 5 things I love about myself in the last 24 hours. So I would think about things I did in the last 24 hours, or some kind words that someone told me, and I would just repeat that to myself very briefly. It only takes about a minute to go through these 5 things. It might be, gosh, Vishen, I love that you have such good taste in shirts. Or, Vishen, I love the fact that you held that elevator open for that lady and then helped her carry her bags to the office this morning. Or, Vishen, I love the fact that you can get on stage and you're so confident and you believe in what you say. Now, it doesn't take much to think about these 5 things, and they can be the smallest things. Often, they are not big successes. They are small things small displays of kindness. But I found that adding that 5 things I love about myself completely shifted me in deep, profound ways as well.
I love it. That's awesome.
So those of you practicing the 6-phase meditation, you know what to do. Kamal, any final tips before we end the call?
Tips. I think one thing I've really learned. I used to work on life from the outside in. I was always trying to make things work in the outside. And what I've learned is, and I think I may have mentioned this before, life is from the inside out, right? And I think whatever practice one does, the most important thing we can do is actually just nourish ourselves from the inside out, not from the outside in. And that, totally changes the outside. It's really that simple.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing for us to remember. So thank you, Kamal, and thank you for sharing your wisdom with us.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you, Kamal. So to recap, these are the 3 systems that Kamal spoke of. The first system is the simple idea of going into a state of blissful relaxation. Kamal loves to play some music in the background. He times his timer for about 7 minutes, and as he's in that state, he breathes in, listens to his breath, and repeats the words, I love myself. And then as he's exhaling, he just lets whatever thought come to his mind without judging the thought. So again, 7 minutes meditation music in the background. You can adjust the music, you can adjust the length of time. The main idea is just breathing in the words, I love myself, then exhaling, letting whatever thought come out and not judging that thought. The second exercise is the one that he claims is a little bit weirder, but he says works really well. Before you're brushing your teeth, when you're faced with a mirror, just eye gaze. Look at yourself in the eye and fall in love with yourself and simply say, I love myself. This one sounds a little bit kooky, but again, the results are amazing. Try doing this before starting your day. I can guarantee you, you will feel remarkably different. The third one is a simple timer on your mobile device or your cell phone. A simple timer that you can set to have a little beep go on 5 to 10 times a day with the message, remember to love yourself. So again, these are really, really simple systems. But as Kamal explained, when you put them together, it creates a massive shift in your life. What Kamal said is really this. When you start loving yourself, so many other things in your life start to shift. That nagging voice behind you that whines and complains or tells you he's not good enough starts to disappear. And when you start doing this, according to Kamal and other philosophers I've spoken to, it starts to seem as if there's a magic in your life, that synchronous things happen so that you move confidently towards your goal and you have a lot more fun doing it. Now the fourth system is a system that I developed after listening to Kamal and after reading his book. And this is just a minor hack on the 6-phase meditation. So if you guys do the 6-phase meditation, you're familiar with the gratitude phase, where you repeat 5 things you're grateful for in your personal life, 5 things you're grateful for in your career. Well, you add a third step to that. 5 things you love about yourself, or 5 things you're grateful for being you. And I found that this phase, this additional step, has made this exercise so much more profound for me. And finally, just as a little treat, so after Awesomeness Fest Dominican Republic, right, it wasn't just Kamal, but we had another speaker who was actually a member of the audience who got on stage and spoke about how he had been doing this Love Yourself exercise in the mirror, except he came up with a little song around the words, I love myself. He started singing it on stage. Other people joined in, and at Awesomeness Fest, a mini Love Yourself movement sparked, and people put up a website, and dozens of people from all around the world started recording YouTube videos of themselves singing this little song, which has nothing more than 3 words in it, I love myself, and they started sharing it on YouTube. So check out some of these videos.